The most important next step is to, one, really think about who you are and where you want to be.
Happy to have you here.
Happy to be on.
Love this topic of communication. I know is a thing that, looking at your book, I should say, let's start there.
Sure.
I love the idea of, hey, how do we talk to humans? Because it feels like such an obvious concept, but one that I think a lot of people really don't pay enough attention to because we spend so much of our time not talking to humans, right? And I think that's a skill
Yeah.
set that we're sort of losing. I'd love if you kind of give me a little bit of background, like what even inspired you to start talking about that?
And we're not Are we recording?
Yeah, we are.
Oh, okay. I didn't know the podcast started.
Yeah, no. Yeah, we're right in.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So, to let me first start off with who the book is for
Sure.
and what the book is and all that. So, I think, like you said, like my pitch is this: that we're being programmed by social media algorithms all the time, right? That feed our confirmation bias, and the goal there is to sell us ads. So it's slightly deceptive, but we know why we're there. We're there for a little break to help us escape reality. But the problem is that no one now knows what reality really is. And because we think social media is the real source of news, people just don't trust, relate to other people, and they find other people a lot of times aggravating. Look at anything within the recent cycle of news and politics, right? We don't need to jump into there, but you get it. Like, people just feel really disconnected and they don't want to connect with other people, and they find solace in all these digital tools. So we feel disconnected. We end up seeking escapes that um, seemingly improve our lives, but because we don't have anybody to challenge us when we seclude ourselves, we don't actually have those opportunities for growth. And the thing is that people actually need other people, even if it's people that we agree with and admire, or people that we don't disagree with. You're never going to have AI challenge your confirmation bias. You're never going to have these social media algorithms uh, challenge you in a way that other people can. And they also won't provide you the opportunity to connect with people. Like, if you were, for example, on the side of the road and your car breaks down and you need help changing a tire, AI is not going to do that. Social media is not going to come over and say, "Hey, how can I help, buddy?" and push your car or help you along the way, right? It's those kind of things, and that we need to help us challenge our understanding of other people. Even if we don't agree with somebody's politics, religion, or whatnot, they're still people, and on a human level, we could still connect with them and appreciate them for who they are. We don't have to have all these decisive lines and lines in the sand about who people are, where they come from, and whether we agree with their politics, religion, whatnot, right? We need people, because if we have more conversations like that, then we're going to be able to help build ourselves up and have a better opinion about things and be more educated, right? So
Right.
to go into who the book is for, first off, the book is really about and for anyone that's looking to advance their career and find purpose. And second, what's different about the book, it's for those who find it challenging to relate to others, or scary, or, like I said, annoying, that you just, I don't want to talk to people anymore. That's enough. And, again, we've seen a lot of that in the current political landscape, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, or if you're in the middle. And lastly, the book is about my whole pitch, right? Which is the title: Talk to Humans and Get Stuff Done, Be Proactive, Productive, and Professional with People. So at the heart of that title, it's all about the genuine value of connecting with people, the relationships you make, and using your time intentionally without waiting for permission to be successful. You probably had yourself a time when and we all have, where we've hesitated to take action in our career because we were waiting for someone's permission, whether that's a supervisor saying, "Hey, go ahead and move forward with that document," or a parental figure saying, "Yeah, you could certainly go ahead and take that class," or social proof, like your friend saying, "Yeah, you know what, it's good to do X, Y, and Z, and it's going to help you be more physically stable, fiscal, financially stable in the future." Those kind of things really can stop us from moving forward, and we over question ourselves and we get stuck. And it's all about not getting stuck, and it's all about moving forward and taking the initiative to be proactive.
Yeah. So that's a great point there. And I'm curious, from your perspective, how much of that do you think relies on us understanding who we are authentically and not worrying about the lens that we view ourselves with, right? So if we
Mm-hmm.
understand who we are, and we're not so easily offended because we don't care about other people's criticisms of us,
Sure.
does that give us a little bit more permission to show up in these conversations because we're not in fear of that judgment or trying to figure out, hey, who do you view me as? Because I know who I am myself.
Well, I think that goes back to the famous saying, and I don't know who coined this, but your ego is not your amigo, right? So if you feel like you're you're a certain person, you have certain beliefs, and I'm not discrediting anybody's beliefs. I think everyone is definitely uh, should have their own beliefs, in whether it's, again, religion, politics, whatever, right? If you like if you think the Weezer Pinkerton album is the best album, that's great. So do I. But maybe someone else doesn't. But if you have a belief, like a certain religion that you feel you identify with, and it's a part of your ego, that, again, that's great. But you also need to make sure that you're open to new perspectives and accept challenges, no matter where you stand, no matter how much you believe in one thing or another, who you believe you are. If you're open to input, criticism, you're going to be able to move forward so much faster. It's about not focusing on problems. It's about focusing on solutions. And what I mean by that in regards to this is, if you are taking people's negative criticism against something you believe in, or something about yourself, say, hey, I don't like the way you do X, Y, and Z. It certainly doesn't come off professional, and it's not going to help our company this quarter, right? Take that criticism. Don't let it bog you down. Use that as a tool to help inspire you to say, okay, well, they're giving me a problem, but let me focus on the solution, rather than focusing on, oh man, I'm really bad at X, Y, and Z. And then, your reticular activating system kicks in and finds a pattern and says, hey, you know what, you're no good at X, Y, and Z. You might as well give up. And everywhere you look, you see another confirmation bias about why you're not good at X, Y, and Z. Stop focusing on the problems, focus on solutions. Whatever you believe, you make into your reality. You manifest your own reality. So if you're looking at, okay, you know what, let me focus on solutions. Start looking up, how can I be better at X, Y, and Z? What have others done? What have people that I look up to? What have my mentors accomplished in X, Y, and Z? That's when you're going to find yourself being able to move forward, advance, and you're not going to think about problems. You're going to think about solutions, and you're going to be much more productive in life, professionally and personally.
Hmm. So right now in this current environment that we're in, right, there's a lot of tension, and I think a lot of people, if I'm hearing you correct, are
Mm-hmm.
pegging too much of their own identity to a side rather than their own core values, and saying, hey, I believe I agree with that person on this one thing. I believe I agree on this person on the other thing. Right? They just assign themselves as a supporter of a person, not necessarily the individual ideas. Do you see that as like a current problem people are having?
Well, in my perspective, I think there's a lot of that. I'm not saying that there's all of that, but that's certainly one flavor of a behavior that's um, prominent within our current culture. And I think, again, no matter what you believe in, where you stand, what you think, where you are professionally or personally, you have to make sure that you're not seeing, you don't have the blinders on, that you think just this one thing is correct. You have to be open to be able to see and accept other opinions, personalities, other traits in people that could behoove your own personality and your own professional and personal growth.
Yeah. What happens if I am wrong?
If you're
Right? What
wrong,
happened?
what do you mean
Well,
by that?
yeah.
But
So I mean
what
is what
define
happens.
wrong?
Well, great question, right? So, and this is
Mm-hmm.
a thing that like I see a lot of people who are struggling with is if they uh, if they peg their beliefs onto one other person,
Mm-hmm.
and they are so hardlined on, hey, this is what I believe, this is who I follow, and all of a sudden now it goes against what they thought they believed in. it suddenly shatters their entire understanding of who they are. It shatters all their beliefs, and now they don't know what to believe because they pegged everything on this one person and this one thing, and that was their entire belief system, right?
Well,
So,
yeah,
yeah,
okay. I think I understand where you're coming from there. If I could interject right at that point, I think
yeah.
what you're talking about there is a really interesting point, and it goes back to what I said earlier about don't let your ego be your amigo. Your ego is not your friend. If you come across some kind of belief or believe in a person, an idea or whatnot, and you find out that it actually doesn't align with who you are, well, that's part of the human experience. That's part of growth, right? When I was 8 years old, I thought, He-Man was the best cartoon in the world. And, I don't feel like that now, and that's okay. You got to accept that we all grow and we all are different people than we were 6 years ago, 6 weeks ago, 6 days ago, right? And if you can't accept growth, well, then you're hindering your own ability to become a better human being.
So let's pause there for a second because I agree with all of that.
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of people who maybe are stuck in the position of not having changed their opinion in the past 6 years, months, or days.
Sure.
And I think that should be more of a red flag to you than anything else. Hey, have my opinions not wavered at all? Have I not cast doubt on the fact that maybe I don't believe this? Right? How much of your time do you spend listening to things you don't necessarily agree with to maybe test those theories rather than living in an echo chamber? Do you intentionally take some effort to get outside of that and say, hey, let me get around some people who definitely disagree with the things that I believe? It's either going to test my beliefs to say, yeah, I really do strongly believe this, or I might be open to learning a thing or two, right? Do you
Yeah.
believe there's some validity to that?
Yeah, absolutely, Jim. I think that we all have to make sure that we identify and are cognizant of that we have our own bubbles that we live in, right? No matter who you are, where you are, you're aware of your surroundings, and anything outside of a certain diameter, a certain mileage, you're not completely cognizant of, right? I don't know who has the best barbecue chicken in Nashville, but I do in Florida. But take that as a funny point as you will, but you know anything that you could think of as far as certain behaviors with different technologies or different ways of thinking only extend a certain distance away from who you are as a person and who you identify with. For example, there was this technology I think that came out a few years ago in California for hand sensors. You probably heard this story, right? There was this group of uh, developers that were creating this hand sensor to where you put your hand under the sensor and soap would come out and you could wash your hands, right? It was this new company at the time, just developing an updated version of that. So everything worked fine to their beliefs, and then when they brought it out and started doing user testing, they found out that people with black skin, the soap didn't come out because they didn't test it until they got to the final rounds of user testing. So when they put someone with black skin hands put their hands under the um, vessel to get soap, nothing happened, even as hard as they tried. So these developers were living in their own bubble. They weren't aware. Were they particularly looking to only include a certain degree of or a certain type of person, whether that was good or bad in their minds? I don't know. I have no idea. But there's the thing. There's the rub, right? We have to make sure that we are we look outside of our bubble when we're doing anything, and because we who we're developing a particular service, product, or an idea for extends far past us and our understanding when it comes to the general public.
Right. Let's take that idea and go one step further
Sure.
because that is a great point. I do remember that story when it came out.
Yeah.
And, I think that there's this other part of our culture currently where enragement becomes engagement, and that is a
Mm,
commodity, right?
sure.
People want people to be enraged because if I can get you enraged, I can get you to click on a story and read about it.
Hmm.
So if we take that same story, it's very easy to spin it one of two ways. Either, hey, the five developers who worked on that happened to be white dudes and they just didn't have a black dude around to test their hands against it. They just didn't realize it because they didn't think about it. Or these people are intentionally racist and they're doing this to harm a subset of culture. Right? You could put out both news stories and people would get enraged to one side or the other and click on it.
Sure.
Right? And that's what I think a lot of people are now realizing, is that they are being intentionally manipulated in a way to get their attention drawn to a certain topic.
It's that
And I think
dopamine hit.
right, people don't necessarily, we're not used to that. For a long period of time, we were able to just consume things based on, hey, these are the information points, draw your own conclusion. Where now we are actively farming enragement because that drives clicks and that drives money, right? You look at all these things that are going on in the current news. There's a lot of coverage about airplane incidents, right?
Yeah.
Plane crashes, miscommunications, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of things going on. Some of it has to do with high profile crash, Washington, D.C., gets a lot of attention, right? But if you listen to all that, it would have you believe that planes are falling out of the sky at a greater rate than they ever have before, and it's such an unsafe thing to do. If you go to the actual statistics of this from the NTSB, the government site itself, who tracks these, in January and February, they have had, 2025, they've had the lowest numbers in like the past 15, 20 years. You can go look at month by month stats for the past 15, 20 years. The stats, safety-wise, incident-wise, are lower than they have been in years. Now, again, you could twist that to say incidents versus fatalities. You could manipulate that data to prove any point you want. But the point is, what we have to do, I believe, is start looking at, hey, take this headline, this whatever I'm being told, take it at face value, not let it enrage me, but let me do some research, pro and con. Right? Can I entertain both sides of this argument in my head and draw my own conclusion rather than just read a headline, get enraged, and then start spewing off comments to another person and let my identity become whatever I just read? Right? So,
Yeah.
What do you feel about all that?
Well, that's the same thing that I was talking about earlier. It's all about these algorithms within social media that they're using to sell us ads. And perhaps there is some kind of macabre agenda. I doubt it. People aren't that advanced, right? I don't think anybody's put that much thought in it. But I think it's more a result of people just trying to make money. And, you could say that's the macabre agenda as well, but they're just trying to sell ads. So that we have these headlines that say, like we talked about that story with the hand soap, we talked about that story with the planes, and we don't know, and the general public, probably doesn't even know the facts or what happened in either of those scenarios, good or bad. It could be horrible, but maybe it's not, like you said with the planes. But the fact is that these headlines are there to help get us to read, get us to click, and get us to sell, and sell us an ad. That's the bottom line. And these algorithms just program us to further disconnect from people, right? It's about time and technology, and I'm fascinated by how what's virtual has really become more real than reality these days, right? We're just at the heart of it. We're just meaty avatars for the spirit, right? We're made up of nerves, hearts, brains, guts, blood, and it's pretty obvious that our biological vehicles are having a hard time keeping up with the progress of today and where things are going. So within that progress, there's things like Steve Jobs came out with the iPhone in 2007, the iPad in 2010 that looked like Penny's computer book, and now we have all these social media programs, these apps in our pocket that we're constantly looking for some feeling, some kind of dopamine hit, some kind of feeling of validation, and again, social proof, because we're looking to escape. We're also looking for reality of what we should feel and how everyone else is feeling. And we have these harsh headlines, again, solely made to sell ads that we bite. It's bait. We bite it, we're on the hook, and then it tells us how to feel. But the answer to that is that I think it comes maybe not with this generation, but maybe it's hopefully 5 to 6 to 7 years down the line that we start seeing patterns where we recognize that these things aren't necessarily healthy for us to just fall for hook, line, and sinker, to fulfill the full analogy there. It's to make sure that we look, understand, digest the information, and come up with our own conclusions.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it really highlights a great point that people need to be aware of just how much they are being played to, right? And it's
Yes,
sad, it's unfortunate, but if we start to wake up to the fact that you genuinely can't take anything at face value, and you have to be able to just let a thought sit, read a headline without instantly reacting to it, do 2 seconds of research on it to understand, hey, is this something that I believe is fully true? Am I getting the whole story? Or do I need to just put this in a file and read it later when I can pay attention to it, not instantly react and let it ruin my day? So
exactly. And you
how
don't
much
have
we
to
think
have a you don't have to have a response to it either. Not everybody,
yeah,
just because there's something out there, you don't have to put in your 2 pennies. You could let it sit, as you said, right? Think about it. Come up with your own perspective. Think about it. Maybe read about it somewhere other than TikTok or Facebook or Instagram or whatever you use. Not knocking those platforms; they're great platforms, but that shouldn't be your only source of news. It shouldn't be the only thing that you look at, instantly read, and say, "Oh, that's what I think." Right? We're fractions away from Neuralink being in our head to saying, "Hey, this is what you think. You think it. Okay, cool." And then we're just puppets, right? And like I said, we're a fraction away from becoming those puppets. We don't have the physical hardware yet in our head, but we're holding it in our hand. We have the symbiotic relationship with this phone, and it's almost a part of our identity. Look at so many people that they can't go anywhere without their phone. They can't put their phone down when they're having dinner with someone. They can't do basic interaction. They're looking at it while they're working constantly.
yeah. So you would say for someone to really develop the healthiest mindset, they would need to develop a healthy mindset sort of separate from the electronics, from all of that stuff first, to then be able to kind of filter that and really build the best life they possibly can. They really need to have the basic understandings of, hey, how does reality work in the first place
Yes,
in the real world
yes.
before they can apply it to a digital device.
Yeah, and it's important to remember that you can take that device and you can put it down and you can walk away from it and you're not going to perish, right? It's not actually a part of you. I understand that people feel like they have a literal symbiotic relationship with it, right? But it's not an actual extension of you. It's just a black mirror that you're looking through to get some information. You know, if you want to have a healthy life, a healthy perspective, you can't always turn on the news, whether that's on a device or even a television, right? You can't always be watching those things on whatever channel, platform, all the time, taking that in and thinking that's reality. That's someone's reality, of course, and it's a part of reality. But you also have to educate yourself and look up what these things are, look up the effects, look up the history. And that's a lot more of an investment in yourself and the story or whatever the story is. But, we have to just make sure that we think about each one of these clickbait kind of stories, these fancy, scary headlines, and take them with a grain of salt, right? We got that one thing that's recently with with that comet that's coming down in 7 years, and it's going to destroy a city in the world, and blah 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 blah. And they're like, "Oh, NASA doubled the chances," and blah blah blah. Who knows if that's even real, right? That's just it's a really successful tool, and it works really well to sell ads, right? It probably sells sneakers, and that's the extent of it. And you
Right.
have to remember that these things are made to scare you, right? They're made for you to jump up and click on and go, "Oh my God, what's going on?" But it's not real. We have to make sure that we're not becoming puppets to everything that's constantly pushed out on the 24/7 news cycle.
Yeah. I think that there's a scary part of that, depending upon how you take it. Because
Sure.
some people might interpret that as everyone in the world is lying to me and is out to get me.
Mhm.
Or the flip side of that is everybody in the world lives in their own version of reality. Some people are trying to manipulate me to get me to buy something. Otherwise, I don't have to participate. Right? And I think the latter is probably a way more healthy mentality to take, understanding that, hey, everyone around me believes their own reality. I don't have to participate in that. It's up
That's
to
right.
them. I get to pick and choose what reality I live in.
That's right. And you do. You live in whatever reality you wish to live in. You change your frequency, right? If you just, smile a little bit, you're going to feel happier. If you believe the world's a great place, you're going to feel like it's a great place. There's a lot of studies, for example, with people watching certain programs on television or social media, on their phone, what have you. that they'll listen to a murder podcast before they go to sleep to relax. I don't know. It's not my cup of Earl Grey, but there's also people that watch, MSNBC or CNN or Fox or whatever before they go to sleep because they want to get an update on their day. Whatever those things are that you're looking at, it's going to impact your sleep. You're going to be thinking about that stuff. And again, this is a study. This is not me. If you want to, and that manifests into the next day, into your actual reality. So if you just have a positive attitude, maybe just assume the best of people, and not take these things as face value as actual news, but remember that uh, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, it's entertainment first and foremost. It's not news, it's entertainment. Certainly there's a news element of it, but it's newsy-ish kind of news, right? It's not necessarily reality. Not discrediting anybody that's an actual journalist publishing on those platforms, but you just have to take those platforms with a grain of salt and remember that they're there to sell you ads. And the algorithms will show you more things that you're looking at. Again, the confirmation bias, your reticulator activating system. It's going to help those patterns. It's going to build, and it's going to show those things that you believe in. So if you believe the moon landing was fake, and you're scrolling through Facebook or TikTok, you're going to see more and more things about that moon landing being fake because it notices that you're spending more time on those stories and you're staying on their platform longer, which obviously is their goal. Stay on the platform longer. We sell you ads. We make money. Everybody happy, right? Not necessarily. Not everybody happy. But you start to believe, I see this all the time. You'll tell your friends, I see that the moon landing's fake all the time. I've seen it so much on Facebook. Well, no, it's because that's what the application is showing you because the algorithms say, you like me, feed you. That's it.
Yeah. Now, I want to ask you if you do this, because I do this very intentionally, and I'm going to assume you probably do too.
Sure.
Do you intentionally take some time to retrain your algorithm periodically? Like every probably 10 to 14 days or so, I'll go in and I'll intentionally look at things I want to see more of to retrain my algorithm. Hey, this is what I want you to show me, not the other crap. So I'll go in and I'll search for specific terms. I'll spend time clicking through profiles of people and things I want to see more of. So I make sure my algorithm stays trained to show me only the things that I want to see.
It's funny you bring that up because, I talk about that in the book. And again, the book is Talk to Humans and Get Stuff Done. Be proactive, productive, and professional with people. Please buy a copy. But yes, to that point, like I said earlier, it's about making sure that you, to use your term, train your brain, not looking at all the stuff, but looking at some positive things. So, whether you're taking some time to look at like a master class or you're doing some career coaching or you're doing micro learning. I see a lot of ads right now for, instead of the scrolling for the dopamine hit, do 15 minutes of micro learning. Those are great alternatives. But also, like you said, reprogramming the algorithms of those platforms is very advantageous because you're reprogramming you too. So again, the more you look at a particular thing, if you were into Chihuahua photos, you're going to see a lot of Chihuahua photos. You're into the moon landing being fake, you're going to see a lot of that. But think about your goals and your aspirations, right? Where do you want to be in 2, 5, 10 years? Look at those things. If you want to live in a castle in Ireland, then great. Start looking at castles in Ireland. Start looking up real estate in Ireland. Whatever that thing may be. You want to be a VP. You want to be a CEO of your company. Start looking at those things on those platforms. I know you're not going to necessarily get your your business degree on Facebook or TikTok, but just look up some of those mentors, see what they're saying, see if their thoughts inspire and challenge you, and perhaps you're going to get a better result in the algorithms that's going to help your mental health, your professional aspirations, and help you propel yourself to a better future.
Yeah, I love that. One of the things I like to do often is like you open up your Instagram and go to the search page, and just see what, like those probably 20, 24 posts that are on that page, what are they showing you, right? Are those 24 posts a picture of your dream life, or is it escapism? Like if you look at what's on that page, that's a representation of what they believe you want to see.
Mm-hmm.
And just take a look at that to see, hey, do those things align with my future? Or is that stuff that is intentionally harming me and putting me in a bad mental spot? It's like a real easy way to just visualize what you're being fed because you're choosing it.
That's again, when people use these platforms, it's escapism, right? A lot of people use their phone when they take a break here and there, whether it's just on the bus, whether it's doing your business, whether it's here or there, or you're just taking a quick 2 minutes to look at your phone, checking your emails while you're at work, right? Look at these pages, reassess what's actually on in your brain. It's the same thing as looking at the desktop on your computer. What kind of things do you have there? Well, check that organization. Check the apps that you have on your phone. Check your result pages, your explore pages. What are the things that the algorithms think that you're thinking of and want to see? Does that align with your aspirations? So a lot of the times, that could be a big no. It could be negative, or it could be again the things that you like to look at just to escape, which is fine. But if there are also things that are going to harm you, then it's certainly not a good idea to just let that be as it is. But it's all about want and need. If you have a want to be better, do better, feel better, well, that's something that you may or may not act upon. But if you have a need, if you change your wants to a need, meaning, you know what, I need to be here in 3 or 5 years, I need to feel better. There's things like, you can't want to pay your rent, you have to pay your rent. You can't want to pay your mortgage, you have to pay your mortgage, right? So then you have to go to work or start a business, be an entrepreneur. You have to change your mindset of the way that you think about these things. One of the chapters in my book, which is Do Stuff Before You're Dead, might sound a little morbid. It's the last chapter of the book, but it talks about how we have limited time in this realm to be able to do things. We don't have the time to want or wait for change. We have to give ourselves the permission to make these things reality. One of the things that I've coined is don't walk with legs, run with hunger, meaning that you have to run with that need. You have to make things a need if you're going to want to do them, or else you'll get around to them whenever you get around to them, which is usually the case is never. So you got to make sure that you turn these things into a need. I think one of the ways that I've seen somebody illustrate this is there's a gentleman that talked about how the most expensive real estate in the world is graveyards, because that's where all the ideas go to die, right? And think about how much, and I know this sounds morbid, but think about how many amazing ideas that never came to fruition are 6 feet deep in the earth. And there's all these people that said, yeah, I'll get to that one day. Don't be one of those people that 60 years from now go, oh man, they never did what they wanted to do. Just don't wait for permission. Give yourself the permission to get out there, do the things you want to do. Even just give it a try. Make it a need. If you make it a need, you're going to make it happen, and you have to be okay with accepting failure along the way. You have to be okay with falling down and getting mud and dirt on your face and accepting a lot of failure, and you'll build that success. Most of the time, if you talk to any successful person like I don't know, Mark Cuban or Richard Branson, they talk about how they built success on a pile of broken failure, and that's where they got to it, just by having that perspective of all those failures and knowing what to do bad, what to do wrong, and what works. So, I really believe in making sure that you're cognizant of the time that you have and using that time wisely, and making sure that you take advantage of the gift of life, and making sure that you're aware of how much your time is worth, and thinking about how much your time is worth an hour. You think about, like, what the minimum wage is now, and does that actually represent your time? When you walk around with, and I know I'm going on a little bit longer for my point and it might be harder to keep up, but I just want to conclude with this, is that when you go around doing the things that you love to do, that give you the most joy, whether that's walking in the park holding your son's hand, spending time with your significant other, your spouse, your wife, your husband, whomever, um, it might sound weird, but think about how much is that time worth in a dollar amount to you, USD. What is that time? Does it match what you're currently being paid? And if it isn't, then reassess who you are, what you're doing, and make that a need to get to that, or exceed that so you could do more of the things that you love to do, so you could own your own time.
Yeah, I love that. Especially even the concept too of really understanding, hey, this thing I'm about to go do, how much time did I have to trade to get to do that?
It's a
Right, to
trade. I
think
mean,
about,
yeah, it
yeah,
goes with your whole concept of the half-eaten cake, which I really admire, and I love that the platform that you've created here and what you talk about that. But yeah, it's all about that and valuing that time. But I'm sorry, I think I might have cut you off.
no, it's okay. Just really to say, when you're about to go do something, to think about the time trade off, right, and at what cost. And I think a lot of people take for granted the fact that they are going to wake up tomorrow and they're going to have infinite more time to just do things and kind of meander through life.
Yeah,
But it's, yeah, again, it's maybe a morbid thought to have, but the rest of today isn't even promised to you.
that's right.
Like, you might not even see tomorrow. And I know that that sucks to consider as a real thing, but it's true. And it's unfortunate. But at a certain point, when you actually take it seriously and you really appreciate the time that you have here, things start to get put into perspective where you stop caring about people's opinions. You stop caring about things that don't matter and you start really putting priority on the things that actually make a difference in your life and the lives of people that you love. And I think, again, just to really hammer that point home, you might not make tomorrow. And again, I know that that's a harsh thing to hear and a harsh thing to say, but you need to understand it, because once you do, you will start to really prioritize what matters. And I think if we could leave people with one thing, or at least from my perspective, and I'd love to hear yours in a second, is that the importance of making this moment matter, right?
Mhm.
Really taking this opportunity right now to take the things that you just heard and take a deep look at how you consume media, how you consume conversation, how you communicate with people, and make this moment a moment you say, hey, I'm going to really put some intentionality behind the communication, the relationships that I have, the media that I consume, and make sure that it is feeding my life in a positive direction, not just meandering through it and hoping for the best, right? Put some intentionality behind it. That's my spiel. And I want to thank you for everything that you've contributed to this. It has been an amazing conversation. In closing, I really want to understand from you what you believe the most important next step a person might take would be.
The most important next step is to, one, really think about who you are and where you want to be when you get to a point in life where you might not be able to enjoy the things you do in a way that you have when you were young, right? Um, that doesn't necessarily mean that, hey, plan for the end of your life. I'm just saying that, whatever you want to do, think about the dollar amount of your time. Again, think about it in USD. How much is my time worth? And is that time that I'm spending right now at a particular job, or a venture? If I'm an entrepreneur, I have 3 or 4 companies, and or if I'm working at a company where I feel stuck, don't feel like you need to be stuck. You can make a difference. You can make a change. For example, I worked at a company many years ago, like over a score ago, where I was really happy at that job, but my wife and I wanted to have a family, so I needed to find new opportunities. So I decided to leave that job, and I drove to a job that was an hour away at a completely different city. But that job opened up new opportunities. It helped me see the world in a different light, to experience different people, and we were able to afford to have a child. So just make sure that you don't settle for mediocrity. Make sure that you reassess all the time, the worth of your time and where you want to be in your life. And as time progresses, what do you want to do when you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s? Do you picture yourself holding your family's hand walking on a beach in Connecticut? Or do you feel like you're going to be stuck at that same job, doing X, Y, and Z? Just make sure that you think about these things, so you don't wake up one day with your thoughts and your dreams, holding you in a state of regret.
Yeah, that's a great point. I love that. I want to honor you and thank you for the education you've given us today.
Oh, thank you, Jim.
Um, I will definitely recommend people pick up that book and give it a read. It's an amazing skill that people really need to focus on growing. And I think with a little bit of education, a little bit of intentionality, it could really benefit them. So definitely want to thank you again for being here and for all you've contributed. How
Thank you,
can we
sir.
best support you going forward?
Yeah, again, if you want to check out my book, I'll hold it up again. Talk to Humans and Get Stuff Done. Be proactive, productive, and professional with people. It is a honest, entertaining, and relatable self-help book. Go to frederickWeiss.com. Look at my website or frederickWeiss.com/book, and you could pick up your copy today. It's sold on Apple Books, Amazon, and Barnes & Noble. Would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course, we'll include a link in the notes for that as well.
Thank you, sir.
But again, thank you. Hey, before you go, can I pray for you real quick? Dear Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for the opportunity to spend time together with the person on the other side of this YouTube video or this podcast or wherever they're listening to this right now. I want to thank you for the opportunity for this day, for this moment right now that we're in, because it was not guaranteed to us. And I want to thank you for putting us in this position to learn and to grow and to humble ourselves so that we can be servant leaders, so we can serve the people around us from heart, from authenticity, from a genuine sense of service, and not for selfish gain, but to continue to pour into the other people around us. And I ask that you continue to show up and to meet the person on the other side of this podcast right now, and give them examples of what it means to be a servant leader, and all the examples that you've given us so far, and there are more examples than we can possibly count, and how to show up and be selfless and serve the people in our community, and those include the people that we might disagree with. And you continue to give us the humility, to remove the ego, to remove the foolish pride, and you continue to allow us opportunities to show up and serve, and continue to glorify you in all the ways that we do that level of service. Father God, I ask these things in your name. Amen. Oh, one more thing. I love you.